Rev up your engines!
Well, here's one you gotta laugh at. Lexus kills their LC hybrid because last year they only sold 8 of them in the United States. 8! You're not going to make much of a living selling 8 models of the car. Now, the problem is the LC 500, people love them. They had big V8 engines racing around. Well, some idiot at Lexus came up with the idea of let's put a V6 hybrid instead. And they called it the LC 500H, the hybrid, right? And they only sold 8 of them. People who got in them and drove them and test drove them said they're terrible. They don't have much acceleration. The V8 one was a screamer. And they only sold 8, so now they're killing them in the United States. I guess they're still trying to sell them in other countries, but they're giving up in the United States. Lexus recently announced their 2026 updates, and they said they just omitted the LC 500 hybrid and didn't put it in. You can't order one for 2026. They're not selling them in the United States. Only the V8 model will be offered in the United States starting in 2026, which is kind of interesting because most people like hybrids, but this is a completely different ballgame. People generally like hybrids because they have a long range and they get great gas mileage, right? If you're spending all that money for a Lexus 500, let me tell you, you want speed, you don't care that much about gas mileage. It's a sporty zoom car, right? They water it down, and that was the end of it. It works fine for Camrys, things that can now get 51 miles a gallon and still have plenty enough zip, but this is one of the few hybrids that Toyota failed at. I guess they just thought we can sell any kind of hybrids to anybody. No, it doesn't work that way. And in this case, they're not selling the fancy 500 hybrid anymore, just the regular one, because they realized people want something that's zoom. That's our zoom car. They don't sell that many of them anyways. Even a non-hybrid, they don't sell that many of them. But they sell a lot more than 8. They sold 2,163 of the Lexus 500s, the regular ones with the V8 engines. That's not that much either, but it's a lot more than 8. We all know that Nissan is in problems. The company is in giant turmoil. They try to deal with Honda. That backed out. Then they're talking about something with Toyota. But I doubt if Toyota would be dumb enough to partner up with Nissan. Now, they're talking about shutting down their oldest factory outside of Japan. It's been in operation for almost 60 years. And guess what that factory is? Mexico. So if they're closing down a Mexican factory where it's cheaper to make stuff, you know Nissan is in dire situation. They said that they're going to close their Obama plant in Japan in March 2028. They're going to have 7 Nissan plants to close. The other 6 ones could also include 2 of them in Mexico. Now, if they're leaving Mexico, they tell you they're in deep doo-doo because it's cheaper to make them there. If they can't even make a profit making them cheaper, hey. Now, in the plant they're shutting down, it makes the Navara that you can buy here and the Latin American version of the Nissan Frontier, which aren't horrible vehicles either. It's not like they're horrible front-wheel drive Nissan CVT Jatco crab transmissions. They're not really all that horrible vehicles, right? Again, Nissan's probably just making bad decisions. Let's get rid of the good ones, huh? Let's keep the cheap ones that are really cheap to make. Get rid of the good ones, right? This report that has come out, I guess they got some secret spies, somebody squealing on them, says that Nissan is probably going to dissolve its partnership with Mercedes-Benz early next year because they're concluding making their 2 Infiniti crossovers, the QX50 and the QX55, at its Compass facility because no one's buying them. They build the QX50 and the QX55 on the same assembly line as Mercedes GLB, which also isn't that big of a seller. So Nissan is indeed in deep doo-doo if they have to shut their Mexican plants down. Things aren't looking good for Nissan. Well, Mercedes is going on proving that their electric cars are a failure. They have lowered the price to all their electric vehicles in the United States, and they pulled the plug on orders of some of them. You could save up to $15,000 on some of them. And they're closing the United States order book for the EQE and the EQS sedans and SUVs in the United States because nobody wants to buy them. Now, you go back a year or so, Mercedes says, oh, yeah, they're going to buy our luxury electric cars, right? But it is a gigantic flop. So they want to get them out, the ones that they do have, and they're not going to let you order a bunch of them next year because They know nobody really wants the things. But realize this. Okay. Take the EQE sedan. Okay, they've lowered the price $9,950, almost 10 grand. So it's still a $66,000 car, right? That's a lot of money for an electric car that nobody really wants. And the giant EQE SUV, which was originally $79,000, it's now $66,000 too. So that went down even more, $12,950 cheaper. Electric cars are not what the Mercedes people want. They want the zoom car. They want convenience. Fill it up, go wherever they want. They're not going to be sitting there waiting. And they also said that Mercedes Alabama plant is going to stop producing the U.S. market versions of the electric vehicles starting September 1st. But they said, they're going to build them for other markets. Yeah, until they stop buying them too, right? Mercedes' answer was, and I quote, "We're aligning with customer and market demand." Yeah, in other words, the demand doesn't exist. So they're not going to make them or sell them here anymore. Going to bring in, they said, later 2025, early 2026, they're all new CLA electric sedan, which is cheaper. The C-Class is, they call it Mercedes C-Class. To me, it's cheap class because that's their cheaper car. So they should have used something besides C, because to me it means cheap. It's still not cheap, but it's the cheaper cars that they sell in the United States. Right? So much for Mercedes and their electrification program. Finally, something makes sense in California. California has introduced an apprenticeship program to fill the auto tech shortage. There are so few people that are willing to fix cars that there's such a shortage. Don't take my word for it. Ask your friends who've been to dealerships. They can't even fix a car to dealerships because they don't have enough mechanics. They're backed up, and the ones that they have, let's face the facts. If somebody's a really good mechanic, why would they work for a dealership and make $60,000 a year when they could run their own business and make hundreds of thousands of dollars? The good ones all leave, right? Well, California New Car Dealers Association announced a partnership with the Automotive Apprenticeship Group to allow inspiring techs to learn on the job rather than going to school first. Finally, something in California that makes sense, right? That's how I learned. I learned from my grandfather. I started working when I was 14 at the corner gas station in Lewiston, New York, and now he happens to be a pizza joint. The pizza joint isn't doing too good. No one was in there the last time I went by. The garage went out for years and years and years. So, hey, maybe they should have kept it a garage. But since they are claiming to be 40,000 job openings for automotive techs, they got to come from somewhere, right? And, of course, as time goes on, as we're switching to a lot of hybrids now, the switch to electric cars would be a real stinker. Hardly anybody knows how to fix them, but that doesn't seem to be switching that way. But the switch to hybrids is. Hybrids are selling like hotcakes. So the hybrids are complex too. So you need guys that know what they're doing. And it makes sense. Teach them while they're on the job. That's how you really learn. Back at my father's gas station years ago, we had a mechanic. My father paid to have him go to a course, right, to fix brakes on GM cars. He came back. He did brake jobs. They were still squeaking. He didn't learn anything, but he got A's on the tests. There's a big difference between taking a test, book learning, and the real world actually doing things. California actually makes sense. Now this program's open to anybody. You don't have to go to college. You don't even have to have a high school diploma. Scholarships to teach them while they have a job. They're getting paid and they can learn. It makes sense. They're going to have to do something because there's a shortage of them and as cars get more complex, they're going to have a bunch of cars broken. There's not going to be anybody who knows how to fix them or even wants to learn. Sounds like California finally came out with a good idea. Well, if you're a fan of going off-road and a fan of Toyota, you're going to be happy because Toyota air shock seats are finally making it into the Tundra TRD Pro. Now, check out the picture. You can see they got air shocks on the seats, too. So not only you got the car suspension, but your seats have suspension on it too, and they're air shocks. You can adjust them. You can now get a new Tacoma TRD Pro that has air shocks in the back of the seats. Pretty cool. And one of the reasons they're putting them in is because it allows you to raise the seat. Now, big people that are sitting in, the guy in the back seat doesn't have much leg room. I mean, look at the picture. You can see his legs are jammed in. But when you air up the shocks, the seat goes up and it gives more room for the people in the back. Tundras are big vehicles. They got a lot of room in them. What they are air over oil shocks. So they're air shocks with this oil. So they actually work very good at absorbing shocks. The only thing is, it's too basic as far as I'm concerned. You can use something like a mountain bike pump. You can pump it up to the pressure that you want. Hey, they should have had air pumps in them. They're going to spend all that money for a vehicle. Put those on. They should be automated. Shouldn't have to pump them up with an air pump, right? But, hey, now these seats are still heated, ventilated, and adjustable up, down, fore, and aft. But now they can be lifted up, so people can have more room in the back seat. Of course, I don't know if Toyota thought about this, but if they lift them up too much, if the driver's big, he's going to hit his head on the ceiling. What are they going to do? Expand the car? Make the cab bigger too? Did they think of that? Well, we'll find out as time goes on. Anybody goes out and buys one of these things, tell me what you think. Just Gmail, ScottyKilmer@gmail.com. Tell me, yeah, I tried it out. I loved it. I tried it out. I hated it. I hit my head. Give me some feedback. And if you do buy one, hey, come bring it to me. I'm in Clarksville, Tennessee now. Be here till October. Now, here's yet another reason not to buy a Jaguar. The dealerships can't even fix their own cars. Okay? Dave Ledbetter sends me an email. He says, Scotty, I'm getting a blindside sensor blackout error at 5 miles of travel. I paid the dealer $510, and they were unable to find anything wrong. After 2 weeks, they gave up and told me to come get it. This was before I found you, though, so thanks in advance for advice that I will now take. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. They build a car. Okay? And a Jaguar XF-R Sport is a very expensive vehicle, right? They charged them $510. They couldn't fix it. They had it for 2 weeks and said, take it back. We can't fix it. That tells you, this is at a Jaguar dealership, right? This isn't some Billy Bob at the corner gas station. No, man, I don't know much about them Jaguars, right? This is the Jaguar dealer. They can't figure out what's wrong with it because they're rolling piles of over-engineered junk. You want to buy one of those cars? Buy it your own peril. I once had a customer who was smarter. She bought a used one, had it for 3 years, sometimes had to fix the same part 3 times over those 3 years because it was such junk. And these parts were original equipment Jaguar replacement parts too, right? Plastic crap just kept breaking. It was such junk. But at least she bought it used, got rid of it, only lost about $5,000. And she said to me, I got it out of my system. And she went out and bought a Lexus instead. And she was real happy after that. Well, here's yet another reason not to buy a BMW. A man by the name of Norman Shrink wrote me and said, Scotty, you reviewed my V10 BMW convertible. Now it's running like crap. So he sends a picture. The wiring is just decomposing. There are just pieces of bare copper sticking out on 16 different wires going to a computer module. And why is this the case? Because BMW uses really thin, cheap plastic on their cars, especially on the wiring. And over time, the wiring just disintegrates. And you could touch the wires, and they'll just break off. And of course, then, since there's like 22 of them on this one wiring harness, they all start touching each other and shorting everything out. It's just a cheap design. If you ask anybody who knows about cars, about BMWs, they'll tell you these things are just cheap plastic piles of crap. And it's not just the wiring. I had a mechanic friend years ago, and I met him in an auto parts store. He says, man, look at that beautiful BMW. I just bought it for one of my customers. I got it dirt cheap, right? So what happens? I see him like 9 months later. I said, how's that BMW working out? He said, that plastic piece of crap. He said, I'm getting rid of that thing. Is the biggest pile of junk I ever bought. And this is a mechanic, right? They use cheap plastic. They act like they're selling you expensive cars that are made well. They are not. They're poorly made. They cost a fortune to repair. And when something as simple as wires coated with plastic can't even be coated correctly, that will tell you. I've seen the headlights go out, and then you pull the headlights out, and the wires going to the headlights are all cracked and broken and shorting them out. They're just garbage. Well, if you want to take a trip to Hollywood, you can now eat at Elon Musk's first Tesla diner. Take a look at it. It's futuristic looking. It has charging stations and 2 66-foot movie screens. Because, man, while you're waiting to get your car charged, you're going to have to do something, right? And it has American comfort food. Think hot dogs and hamburgers and french fries. Now, Elon himself says, if all goes well, I'm going to put them in major cities around the world. Well, all may not go well. Things aren't going that good, and I don't think a chain of fast food restaurants is going to bring Tesla back from the grave where it seems to be headed. But here's what he has. A Tesla burger. It's $13.50. A hot dog is $13. Fries are only $4, and espresso is only $4. A nitro cold brew is $4.50. So it's not as expensive as the cars. Hey, he's not, being like Starbucks and totally ripping people off. Who knows what the quality is like? I would want to test that espresso. But I'm not driving all the way to Hollywood just to test it either. I'm not a big fan of Los Angeles. As David Bowie once said, they asked him after he made the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, they said, David, what do you think of Hollywood? And David Bowie said, on the whole, if I ever had a choice between hell and Hollywood, I would pick hell every single time. So I agree with David Bowie there. I'm not a La La fan, so I doubt if I'm ever going to test it. But if any of you fans are out there and you go and try out his hot dogs and hamburgers, fries, and espresso, please email me, ScottyKilmer@gmail.com. Tell me what you thought of Tesla's drive-in food. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.